There is certainly no animal in the forest or wilderness that matches me in size and weight. The branches of the trees bend before me, but the forest has taught me to bow to no one. I am able to overcome any challenge. However, I never committed injustice, harmed anyone, or uprooted a tree unless it obstructed my path. Truly, I am content with myself. One day, small humans with foolish expressions came to the forest, digging the ground. We elephants did not understand their actions. They dug a hole in the forest and camouflaged it to appear safe. As I walked over it, I fell into the trap set by man. It was then I realized that Allah has honored this fragile creature called man above us. At first, I went mad, striking the net repeatedly, but it only stretched without breaking. Thus began a long journey of irritation, ending in a strange castle. They imprisoned me in a room made of hard stones. The next day, a short, hateful man approached, surrounded by many soldiers and ministers who resembled servants. They constantly flattered, glorified, and even worshipped him. One of them pointed at me, saying, "This is the mightiest elephant in the forest. He is the king of the forest and will now serve Abraha as a soldier in his army." I raised my trunk and let it fall, creating a loud bang. At that moment, Abraha retreated like a frightened child. His servants, ministers, and leaders became furious, and their whips descended upon my body. Initially, I resisted with the protection of my thick skin, but as the pain intensified, I withdrew. The terrific Abraha declared, "Do not strike it. Starvation will discipline it." Then he departed, his servants trailing behind him. I couldn't understand why that dwarf wished to starve me. He seemed smaller than my own trunk. Under the harsh of starvation, I saw the darkness that festered within Abraha. Abraha, a king who sat upon a throne crafted from fear and gold, commanded all to bow before him. Suffering from starvation and on the edge of death, I became a servant to Abraha. Hereafter, whenever I witnessed him, I respectfully raised my trunk. Starvation taught me lessons that even lashes could not impart. In the forest, I was free. But with the loss of freedom came the loss of dignity and even the enjoyment of food itself. My experience in captivity taught me that nothing can substitute the value of freedom. As an elephant, a power that had no freedom, obedience was my only option. Recalling my past memories of freedom stirred a river of sadness within me. A tragedy started when Abraha became aware of the Arabs' respect for the Kaaba and their pilgrimage to it. He instructed his ministers and engineers to construct a temple so that the Arabs will divert their pilgrimage from the Kaaba to it. Construction of the new temple started quickly, with Abraha generously funding it without hesitation. The temple was a magnificent structure crafted from stones adorned with silver. Its doors were gleamed with red hazel gold. Abraha waited for a long time, but did not receive any pilgrims. Abraha's heart, heavy with sadness, began to burn with anger. One day, a Bedouin entered Abraha's temple, then left after relieving himself inside the temple. This incident fueled Abraha's growing rage. Upon hearing the news, Abraha considered the act a direct insult to his honor. He declared, "I will destroy the Kaaba, forcing the Arabs to pilgrimage to my temple." The war drums sounded, signaling the onset of battle. I prepared myself for conflict, feeling a sense of excitement as if my freedom had been reclaimed. As a supreme leader of the other elephants, I initiated our training on demolishing a structure resembling the Kaaba. The army's supreme leader approached Abraha, bowing respectfully before him and saying, "The army stands ready at your command." Abraha announced, "Tomorrow, we march towards our true objective." Finally, Mecca came into view. We halted at its gates, and Abraha dispatched a messenger to request a meeting with the city's leader. The message conveyed Abraha's intent to destroy the Kaaba without intending to provoke conflict with the people of Makkah. In response, Abdul-Muttalib, the leader of Makkah, said to the messenger, "By Allah, we harbor no desire for confrontation, nor do we possess the means to resist. This is the sacred house of Allah, constructed by his friend Ibrahim and his son Ismail, peace be upon them. If Allah chooses to defend the Kaaba, it is because it is his house. However, if he does not, then by Allah we have nothing with which to protect it." When Abraham laid eyes on Abdul-Muttalib, he held him in such respect that he felt uncomfortable seating him in a lower position. Therefore he descended from his throne and joined Abdul-Muttalib on his prized carpet. Turning to his interpreter, Abraham instructed, "Ask him what he desires." Abdul-Muttalib responded, "I request the return of my 200 stolen camels taken by your army." Abraham instructed his interpreter, "Tell him, I held you in favor upon seeing you, but your words have now turned my opinion of you. You speak of camels while disregarding the house that represents the religion of your ancestors." Abdul-Muttalib calmly stated, "I am the owner of these camels, but the sacred house has a Lord who is surely capable of protecting it." Abraham responded, "Not against me." Then he ordered his servants to return the camels to Abdul-Muttalib and to allow him to depart in peace. Abdul-Muttalib returned to his people and urged them to leave Makkah and to seek refuge in the mountains, asking Allah to safeguard his sacred house. With tears streaming down his face, Abdul-Muttalib, alongside a group of believers, hurried to the door of the Kaaba. Together they asked Allah for his aid and protection. Abdul-Muttalib prayed, "O my Lord, a slave defends his possession. I beg you to safeguard your own possession." The people of Makkah dispersed and Makkah stood deserted. The dreaded morning dawned. The war horns blared, signaling the beginning of the army's advance. Then came my moment, like a raging tornado, to fulfill my role and destroy the Kaaba. To my great surprise, I found myself unable to move. Fear coursed through me, causing shivers and sweat to break out. My bones trembled with a combination of fear and cold. I sank to my knees, seized by a mysterious force that I cannot sufficiently describe. They persistently struck my body with lashes, attempting to force me to rise. During Abraham's shouts to force me to rise and attack, I entered a prayer, addressing the Creator directly. "O my Lord, I am innocent. Please help me to flee." Suddenly, the sky turned black. The sun covered by countless flocks of birds. Seizing the opportunity, I rose and fled towards the safety of the desert. Allah commanded flocks of birds to strike the Abraha's army with stones of sigil. From the air, they had the upper hand over Abraha's army. Abraha's army turned into an empty field of stalks of which the corn had been eaten up by cattle. And finally, the wind swept away what was left of Abraha's army.
ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا